Hi viewer, welcome to another episode of Considerus. Welcome to this course. My name is Sirish and I am a software consultant and trainer with more than 13 years of experience. I have given and taken more than 100 interviews in my career. Here I am going to share the top 25 interview questions asked from SQL Server. If you are already giving interviews, then you can easily recognize that these are some of the very important questions in SQL Server. We will cover similar 25 questions in this video. You can find the list of all the questions in the description box. This is the topic SQL. Here we will cover some basics questions about SQL which every candidate should know. Here is the list of the questions and the approx duration of all these questions is around 20 minutes. So let's start with the first question. What is the difference between DBMS and RDBMS? DBMS applications store data as file. 2. In DBMS, data is generally stored in either a hierarchical form or a navigational form. 3. Normalization is not present in DBMS. 4. DBMS does not apply any security with regards to data manipulation. 5. DBMS uses file system to store data, so there will be no relation between the tables. 6. DBMS has to provide some uniform methods to access the stored information. 7. DBMS does not support distributed database. 8. DBMS is meant to be for small organization and deal with small data. It supports single user. 9. Examples of DBMS are file systems, XML etc. RDBMS. RDBMS applications store data in a tabular form. In RDBMS, the tables have an identifier called primary key and the data values are stored in the form of tables. Normalization is present in RDBMS. RDBMS defines the integrity constraint for the purpose of ACID, atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability property. In RDBMS, data values are stored in the form of tables, so a relationship between these data values will be stored in the form of a table as well. RDBMS system supports a tabular structure of the data and a relationship between them to access the stored information. RDBMS supports distributed database. RDBMS is designed to handle large amount of data. It supports multiple users. Example of RDBMS are MySQL, Postgre, SQL Server, Oracle etc. Next question. What is a constraint in SQL? What are its types? Constraints in SQL Server are predefined rules and restrictions that are enforced in a single column or multiple columns, regarding the values allowed in the columns, to maintain the integrity, accuracy, and reliability of that column's data. In other words, if the inserted data meets the constraint rule, it will be inserted successfully. If the inserted data violates the defined constraint, the insert operation will be aborted. There are 6 main constraints that are commonly used in SQL Server that we will describe deeply with examples within this article and the next one. These constraints are: not null values cannot be null. Unique values cannot match any older value. Primary key used to uniquely identify a row. Foreign key references a row in another table. Check validates condition for new value. Default set default value if not passed. Create index used to speed up the read process. Next question. What is the difference between primary key and unique key? The key differences between primary and candidate keys. A primary key can constitute one or more fields of a table to identify records in a table uniquely. On the other hand, a unique key prevents 2 rows from having duplicate entries in a column. A table cannot have more than one primary key in a relational database, while there can be multiple unique keys per table. A primary key column cannot contain null values, whereas a unique key can have null values, but only one null is allowed in a table. A primary key should be unique, but a unique key cannot necessarily be the primary key. The primary key by default is a clustered index where data is physically organized in the sequential index. In contrast, the unique key is a unique non-clustered index. The primary key implements entity integrity, whereas the unique key enforces unique data. Next question: what are triggers and types of triggers? A trigger in structured query language is a set of procedural statements which are executed automatically when there is any response to certain events on the particular table in the database. Triggers are used to protect the data integrity in the database. In structured query language, triggers are called only either before or after the below events. Insert event. This event is called when the new row is entered in the table. Update event. This event is called when the existing record is changed or modified in the table. Delete event. This event is called when the existing record is removed from the table. Types of triggers in SQL. Following are the 6 types of triggers in SQL. After insert trigger. This trigger is invoked after the insertion of data in the table. After update trigger. This trigger is invoked in SQL after the modification of the data in the table. After delete trigger. This trigger is invoked after deleting the data from the table. Before insert trigger. This trigger is invoked before the inserting the record in the table. Before update trigger. This trigger is invoked before the updating the record in the table. Before delete trigger. This trigger is invoked before deleting the record from the table. Next question: what is a view? A view is a virtual table, through which a selective portion of the data from one or more tables can be seen. A view do not contain data of their own. They are used to restrict access to the database or to hide data complexity. A view is stored as a select statement in the database. DML operations on a view like insert, update, delete affects the data in the original table upon which the view is based. Next question: what is the difference between having clause and where clause? The main differences between database and schema. Where clause filters individual rows, whereas the having clause filters groups instead of one row at a time. We cannot use the where clause with aggregate functions because it works for filtering individual rows. In contrast, having can works with aggregate functions because it is used to filter groups. Row operations are handled by the where clause, while the having clause handles column operations to summarize rows or groups. Where comes before group by, which means where clause filter rows before performing aggregate calculations. Having comes after group by, which means the having clause filters rows after performing aggregate calculations. Consequently, having is slower than where in terms of efficiency and should be avoided wherever possible. We can combine the where and having clause together in a select query. In this case, the where clause is used first to filter individual rows. The rows are then grouped, perform aggregate calculations, and finally, the having clause is used to filter the groups. The where clause retrieves the desired data based on the specified condition. On the other hand, the having clause first fetches whole data, and then separation is done based on the specified condition. Without a select statement, we cannot use the having clause. Conversely, we can use a where with select, update, and delete statements. Where clause is a pre-filter, whereas having clause is a post-filter. Next question: what is subquery or nested query or inner query in SQL? A subquery is a query within another query, also known as a nested query or inner query. It is used to restrict or enhance the data to be queried by the main query, thus restricting or enhancing the output of the main query respectively. For example, here we fetch the contact information for students who have enrolled for the math subject. Select name, email, mob, address. From MYDB, contacts, where roll_no in. Select roll_no. From MYDB, students, where subject equals, maths. There are two types of subquery, correlated and non-correlated. A correlated subquery cannot be considered as an independent query, but it can refer to the column in a table listed in the from of the main query. A non-correlated subquery can be considered as an independent query and the output of the subquery is substituted in the main query. Next question: what is auto-increment, identity column in SQL Server? Autoincrement is used in SQL to automatically generate a unique number whenever a new record is inserted into a table. Since the primary key is unique for each record, this primary field is added as the autoincrement field so that it is incremented when a new record is inserted. The auto-increment value starts at 1 and is incremented by 1 whenever a new record is inserted. Next question: what are joins in SQL? Joins in SQL is used to combine rows from two or more tables based on a related column between them. Various types of joins can be used to retrieve data, depending on the relationship between tables. There are four types of joins: inner join, left join, right join, full join. 2149Q10. What are the types of joins in SQL Server? There are four different types of joins in SQL. Inner join retrieves records that have matching values in both tables involved in the join. This is the widely used join for queries. Select asterisk. From table_A, join table_B. Select asterisk. From table_A, inner join table_B. Left outer join retrieves all the records, rows from the left and the matched records, rows from the right table. Select asterisk. From table_AA, left join table_BB. On A.call equals B.call. Right outer join retrieves all the records, rows from the right and the matched records, rows from the left table. Select asterisk. From table_AA, right join table_BB. On A.call equals B.call. Full outer join retrieves all the records where there is a match in either the left or right table. Select asterisk. From table_AA, full join table_BB. On A.call equals B.call. Next question Q11. What is self-join? A self-join is a case of regular join where a table is joined to itself based on some relation between its own columns. Self-join uses the inner join or left join clause and a table alias is used to assign different names to the table within the query. Select a.emp_id as, emp_id, a.emp_name as, employee. b.emp_id as, sub_id, b.emp_name as, supervisor. From employee A, employee B, where a.emp_sub equals b.emp_id. Next question: write a SQL query to fetch all the employees who are also managers. Next question: what are indexes in SQL Server? A database index is a data structure that provides a quick lookup of data in a column or columns of a table. It enhances the speed of operations accessing data from a database table at the cost of additional writes and memory to maintain the index data structure. Create index _name * create index *. On table _name, column _1, column _2. Drop index _name * drop index *. There are different types of indexes that can be created for different purposes. Unique and non-unique index. Unique indexes are indexes that help maintain data integrity by ensuring that no two rows of data in a table have identical key values. Once a unique index has been defined for a table, uniqueness is enforced whenever keys are added or changed within the index. Create unique index myIndex. On students, enroll _no. Non-unique indexes, on the other hand, are not used to enforce constraints on the tables with which they are associated. Instead, non-unique indexes are used solely to improve query performance by maintaining a sorted order of data values that are used frequently. Clustered and non-clustered index. Clustered indexes are indexes whose order of the rows in the database corresponds to the order of the rows in the index. This is why only one clustered index can exist in a given table, whereas multiple non-clustered indexes can exist in the table. The only difference between clustered and non-clustered indexes is that the database manager attempts to keep the data in the database in the same order as the corresponding keys appear in the clustered index. Clustering indexes can improve the performance of most query operations because they provide a linear access path to data stored in the database. Next question: what is clustered index? Clustered index. It is used to sort the rows of data by their key values. A clustered index is like the contents of a phone book. We can directly open the book on David's index, for David, Thompson, and find information for all Davids right next to each other. Since the data are located next to each other, it helps a lot in fetching the data based on range-based queries. A clustered index is actually related to how the data is stored. Only one clustered index is possible per table. Next question: what is non-clustered index? Non-clustered index. It stores data at one location and indexes at another location. The index has pointers that point to the location of the data. As the indexes in a non-clustered index are stored in a different place, there can be many non-clustered indexes for a table. Next question: what is the difference between clustered and non-clustered index? The differences can be broken down into three small factors. Clustered index modifies the way records are stored in a database based on the indexed column. A non-clustered index creates a separate entity within the table which references the original table. Clustered index is used for easy and speedy retrieval of data from the database, whereas fetching records from the non-clustered index is relatively slower. In SQL, a table can have a single clustered index whereas it can have multiple non-clustered indexes. Next question: how to create clustered and non-clustered index in a table. Clustered indexes define the way records are physically sorted in a database table. A clustered index is very similar to the table of contents of a book. In the table of contents, you can see how the book has been physically sorted. Either the topics are sorted chapter-wise according to their relevance, or they can be sorted alphabetically. There can be only one way in which records can be physically sorted on a disk. For example, Records can either be sorted by their IDs or they can be sorted by the alphabetical order of some string column or any other criteria. However, you cannot have records physically sorted by IDs as well as names. Hence, there can be only one clustered index for a database table. A database table has one clustered index by default on the primary key column. Create clustered index less than index underscore name greater than on less than table underscore name greater than less than column underscore name greater than desc. A non-clustered index is an index that doesn't physically sort the database records. Rather, a non-clustered index is stored at a separate location from the actual database table. It is the non-clustered index which is actually similar to an index of a book. A book index is stored at a separate location, while the actual content of the book is separately located. Create nonclustered index less than index underscore name greater than on less than table underscore name greater than less than column underscore name greater than desc. Next question: in which column you will apply the indexing to optimize this query? Select id class from student where name equals happy. Next question: what is the difference between stored procedure and functions? At least 3. The function must return a value, but in stored procedure it is optional. Even a procedure can return 0 or n values. Functions can have only input parameters for it, whereas procedures can have input or output parameters. Functions can be called from procedure, whereas procedures cannot be called from a function. The procedure allows select as well as DML, insert, update, delete statement in it, whereas function allows only select statement in it. Procedures cannot be utilized in a select statement, whereas function can be embedded in a select statement. Stored procedures cannot be used in the SQL statements anywhere in the where having select section, whereas function can be. Functions that return tables can be treated as another rouse. This can be used in joins with other tables. Inline function can be those of as views that take parameters and can be used in joins and other rouse operations. An exception can be handled by try-catch block in a procedure, whereas try-catch block cannot be used in a function. We can use transactions in procedure, whereas we can't use transactions in function. Next question: how to optimize a stored procedure or SQL query? Best performance is the main concern to develop a successful application. Like a coin, the database is the tail side, back end, of an application. A good database design provides the best performance during data manipulation, which results in the best performance of an application. During database designing and data manipulation, we should consider the following key points. Choose appropriate data type. Choose appropriate SQL data type to store your data, since it also helps in to improve the query performance. Example: to store strings, use virchar in place of text data type, since virchar performs better than text. Use text data type whenever you required storing of large text data, more than 8,000 characters. Up to 8,000 characters data you can store in virchar. Avoid nchar and navachar. Practice to avoid nchar and navachar data types, since both the data types takes just double memory as char and virchar. Use nchar and navachar when you're required to store Unicode, 16-bit characters, data like as Hindi, Chinese characters, etc. Avoid null in the fixed length field. Practice avoiding the insertion of null values in the fixed length char field. since null takes the same space as the desired input value for that field. In case of requirement of null, use variable length, varchar, field that takes less space for null. Avoid asterisk in select statement. Practice avoiding asterisk in select statement since SQL Server converts the asterisk to column's name before query execution. One more thing, instead of querying all columns by using asterisk in the select statement, give the name of columns which are required. Avoid select asterisk from TBL name. Best practice. Select call 1, call 2, call 3 from TBL name. Use exists instead of in. Practice to use exists to check existence instead of in since exists is faster than in. Avoid select name, price from TBL product. Where producted in, select distinct producted from TBLOADER. Best practice. Select name, price from TBL product. Where producted exists, select distinct producted from TBLOADER. Avoid having clause. Practice avoiding having clause since it acts as a filter over selected rows. Having clause is required if you further wish to filter the result of an aggregation. Don't use having clause for any other purpose. Create clustered and non-clustered indexes. Practice 2. Create clustered and non-clustered index since indexes helps to access data fastly. But be careful, more indexes on a table will slow the insert, update, delete operations. Hence try to keep small no of indexes on a table. Keep clustered index small. Practice to keep clustered index as much as possible since the fields used in the clustered index may also be used in non-clustered index and data in the database is also stored in the order of the clustered index. Hence a large clustered index on a table with a large number of rows increase the size significantly. Please refer the article Effective Clustered Indexes. Avoid cursors. Practice avoiding cursor since the cursor is very slow in performance. Always try to use SQL Server Cursor Alternative. Please refer the article Cursor Alternative. Use table variable in place of temp table. Practice using a table variable in place of temp table since the temp table resides in the TempDB database. Hence the use of temp tables required interaction with the TempDB database that is a little bit time taking the task. Use union all in place of union. Practice using union all in place of union since it is faster than union as it doesn't sort the result set for distinguished values. Use schema name before SQL object's name. Practice using schema name before SQL object name followed by, since it helps the SQL server for finding that object in a specific schema. As a result, performance is best. Keep transaction small. Practice keeping transaction as small as possible since transaction log the processing table's data during its life. Sometimes long transaction may result in deadlocks. Please refer to the article SQL Server Transactions Management. Set NOCOUNT on. Practice to set NOCOUNT on since SQL Server returns a number of rows affected by SELECT, insert, update and delete statement. We can stop this by setting NOCOUNT on like as. Create procedure DBO, MyStroke. AS. Set NOCOUNT on. Begin. End. Use try catch. Practice using try catch for handling errors in TSQL statements. Sometimes an error in a running transaction may cause deadlock if you have no handle error by using try catch. Please refer the article Exception Handling by Try Catch. Use stored procedure for frequently used data and more complex queries. Practice creating a stored procedure for query that is required to access data frequently. We also created a stored procedure for resolving more complex tasks. Avoid prefix sp underscore with the user-defined stored procedure name. Practice avoiding prefix sp underscore with user-defined stored procedure name since system-defined stored procedure name starts with prefix sp underscore. Hence SQL Server first searches the user-defined procedure in the master database and after that in the current session database. This is time-consuming and may give unaccepted result if system-defined stored procedure have the same name as your defined procedure. Next question: what is a cursor? Why to avoid them? A database cursor is a control structure that allows for the traversal of records in a database. Cursors, in addition, facilitates processing after traversal, such as retrieval, addition, and deletion of database records. They can be viewed as a pointer to one row in a set of rows. Working with SQL cursor. Declare a cursor after any variable declaration. The cursor declaration must always be associated with a select statement. Open cursor to initialize the result set. The open statement must be called before fetching rows from the result set. Fetch statement to retrieve and move to the next row in the result set. Call the close statement to deactivate the cursor. Finally, use the deallocate statement to delete the cursor definition and release the associated resources. Next, question: what is the difference between scope underscore identity and at identity? At identity, this returns the last identity value which is generated on your SQL connection, SPID. But, most of the time it will be what you want, but sometimes it isn't, like when a trigger is fired in response to an insert, and the trigger executes another insert statement. SCOPEIDENTITY. This returns the last identity value which is generated in the current scope, i.e. stored procedure, trigger, function, and so on. Next question: what is CTE in SQL Server? CTEs are common table expressions that are used to create temporary result tables from which data can be retrieved, used. Next question: what is the difference between delete, truncate and drop commands? Delete command. The delete command is data manipulation language command. The delete command deletes one or more existing records from the table in the database. We can restore any deleted row or multiple rows from the database using the rollback command. The delete command does not free the allocated space of the table from memory. The delete command performs slower than the drop command and truncate command as it deletes one or more rows based on a specific condition. The integrity constraints remain the same in the delete command. Delete permission is required to delete the rows of the table. Drop command. The drop command is data definition language command. The drop command drops the complete table from the database. We cannot get the complete table deleted from the database using the rollback command. The drop command removes the space allocated for the table from memory. The drop command has faster performance than delete command but not as compared to the truncate command because the drop command deletes the table from the database after deleting the rows. The integrity constraints get removed for the drop command. We need alter permission on the schema to which the table belongs and control permission on the table to use the drop command. Truncate command. The truncate command is a data definition language command. The truncate command deletes all the rows from the existing table, leaving the row with the column names. We cannot restore all the deleted rows from the database using the rollback command. The truncate command does not free the space allocated for the table from memory. The truncate command works faster than the drop command and delete command because it deletes all the records from the table without any condition. The integrity constraints will not get removed from the truncate command. We need table alter permission to use the truncate command. Next question: how to get the north highest salary of an employee. Select min, sal, from employee where sal in. Select distinct sal, from employee. Order by sal desc. Limit 4, closing parenthesis semicolon. Next question: what are ACID properties? The full form of ACID is atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. ACID properties are used to check the reliability of transactions. Atomicity refers to completed or failed transactions, where a transaction refers to a single logical operation on data. This implies that if any aspect of a transaction fails, the whole transaction fails and the database state remains unchanged. Consistency means that the data meets all validity guidelines. The transaction never leaves the database without finishing its state. Concurrency management is the primary objective of isolation. Durability ensures that once a transaction is committed, it will occur regardless of what happens in between, such as a power outage, fire, or some other kind of disturbance. Next question: what are magic tables in SQL Server? Magic tables are the temporary logical tables that are created by the SQL Server whenever there are insertion or deletion or update (DML) operations. The recently performed operation on the rows gets stored in magic tables automatically. These are not physical tables, but they are just temporary internal tables. These magic tables can't be retrieved directly. We need to use triggers to access these magic tables to get the deleted and inserted rows. At last, thanks for watching this video and all the best for your careers.